a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a fan. Hooray for Hollywood! When you're terrific, if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Radulich and Broadcasting Network feature podcast, Damn You Hollywood! And here's your host, that radiant sun in the sky, that ball of joy you know and love, all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah, the heart of America, it's Robert Winfree! Yay!
Okay, two things. One, I'm not from Salt Lake. There is more than one city in my state.
I don't believe that.
I don't care if you believe it. People believe the earth is flat.
They do.
There's more than one city in my state.
Okay.
I do not live in Salt Lake.
But I don't know where you live, so I just took a guess.
Fair enough. Look, if that's the only city you know of in the state of Utah, fair play. But that's not where I'm from.
Then what's the name of your actual city?
I'm not going to tell everyone where I actually live.
Then they'll find him. Then they'll find him, and like said Jay and Silent Bob, there'll be a line of people outside of his house punching him in the face, yelling, "Not funny."
Yeah. I have a real fear of that, actually. For want of a better descriptor, let's just call it Provo. Actually, you know what? It's a generic enough name. I live in Springville. There's a Springville in every freaking state.
You live in Springfield?
Springville.
Springfield. All right, and what's the second thing?
When did this become the flagship podcast of the network?
When you took the MMA show and ran off with it.
Fair enough. Hey, look, they offered me more money. What can I say?
This is true.
Actually, they tripled what you pay me, for the record.
Nice. Well done.
I know, right? Because 0 times 3 is still 0. Anyway, I'm Robert, as Mark mentioned. Today we will be reviewing... Oh, God. Captain Marvel. When I say my lack of enthusiasm is because I've actually seen the movie. We're going to actually try and avoid a lot of the controversy here. We have a brief bit about it because it's unavoidable at this point. Because... Now, you know what? I'll save it for my bit when we actually talk about it, but we have a minor thing on that. We're not going to touch too much about that, but in the interest of not just two old white guys talking about this movie, and because for some reason she keeps wanting to come back, we do have Alexis Haina back with us as well.
How can I say? I'm a glutton for punishment.
That will be on my tombstone at this point. We also have with us from the Canadian wilderness. It's not actually the wilderness, but... David Wright is here with us. I spaced on your last name for a second. David, how you doing?
You're tearing me apart, Alexis. Oh, hi, Mark.
Boy, I wish this was the first time that gag had been made on this show.
Me too.
And again, you heard from Mark, but here he is again because why not? Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Boy, Captain Marvel, or as we like to call her, Captain Mehville.
Damn you for stealing my bit. Damn you.
And away I go.
You stole my bit. You stole my bit.
That's okay. I thought I was the first one to make that joke on the show, but apparently I missed that episode, so...
So real quick, I know, David, you're back because you tend to want to jump in on all the Marvel discussions. So I mean, unless there's another burning desire here, I'm pretty sure that's why you're back. Alexis, I mean, you also like to jump in on the Marvel discussions, but did you have any particular attachment to this particular character, or we could have been talking about Captain Ham Sandwich and you'd have showed up?
There's a Captain Ham Sandwich?
I hope.
Yeah, it's what happens after Kingpin finally gets a hold of Spider Ham.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Bob, you know, I haven't read a lot of Captain Marvel books, but I am going to say this, knowing that I am the only regularly reoccurring female guest on this network, I knew that I was probably going to need to jump in and say a few things, especially with you guys.
Oh, are you here because you don't need no man to tell you what a wrinkle in time meant to you?
You missed the 40-year-old part, Mark.
No, I'm just here because I know that if I'm not here, it's going to be a very bizarre conversation, and I figured you guys need some actual female objection here and there to balance things out.
How
Oh,
dare you assume my gender today?
yeah. How do you know
Well, that
Robert?
didn't take very long.
How do
Look,
you know
it's
Robert
better to
doesn't
just get it
identify?
out of the way.
How do you know Robert Winfree doesn't identify as a woman? He could be identifying as a female squirrel for all we know.
I've talked enough to him to know that is not the case.
Not on Tuesdays, at any rate.
All right. It's 20 after 9. There's 4 of us, and we got shit to do here. So hit it, Johnny.
All right. This is coming up on your regularly scheduled plot synopsis, so spoilers abound following this warning. You've all been duly warned. She wins. As though there's anything approaching a modicum of tension about this. We are first introduced to Carol Danvers, going by the name of Veers, as a Kree soldier in training under the auspices of evil Jude Law, and I say that because he's always evil. Jude Law is always evil. It's the British thing, I think. She is training to become a Kree warrior in their battle against the evil Skrulls. We see her commune with the Supreme Intelligence, in this case represented by Annette Bening, who does in fact send her out on a mission. This goes badly because they were all trapped by the devious Skrull shapeshifters, because the Skrull are a bunch of shapeshifting aliens. She's captured by them, and her mind is probed for information about the location of someone from her, someone by the what was that? I mean, it's Marvel.
Lawson.
Lawson, thank you. God. MacGuffin. Schmagegi. Let's call him Schmagegi. For information about the whereabouts of this individual, it turns out that person's hiding on Earth. She breaks out of captivity, crashes the ship. They all crash land onto Earth. She encounters Agent Coulson and young Nick Fury, back when he had both eyes. 90s related hilarity ensues. There are, of course, Skrulls already on the planet. When she tells her tale of alien invasion, Nick Fury gives the appropriate response because he's Nick Fury, not Fox Mulder. But he does very quickly encounter an actual Skrull. So he decides to help Captain Marvel on her quest to find out where exactly Dr. Lawson is, what's up with Pegasus, and maybe uncover some of her burgeoning memories because amnesia. They go on a few adventures, they break into a top-secret facility, they go through the records. Come to find out that, again, Captain Marvel is Carol Danvers, who was a human on Earth, not in fact a born Kree, who was a test pilot in the U.S. Air Force, was in close proximity to a giant explosion that, by all logic, should have torn her molecules apart, but instead infused her with the power of photon laser plasmas thingies. She shoots stuff out of her fists. And she also makes the discovery that no, the Kree were the villains all along, which of course we the audience know because everyone and their dog saw Guardians of the Galaxy. She rebels against the control of evil Jude Law and Annette Bening. Annette Bening, who has like the only decent acting moment in this entire movie when she has to pretend that Nirvana isn't the worst crap ever recorded.
Go fuck yourself. You're done editorializing.
Okay, but you also know my stance on Nirvana and have for years.
Yeah, and you're wrong.
I'm not wrong. She throws off the shackles of her oppressors. She becomes the living embodiment of laser beams, defeats the elite Kree force, Jude Law called in reinforcements in the form of Ronan the Accuser. She flies into space, blows up one of his ships, and then poses off anime style to convince him to retreat. He retreats. She comes back down. She sends Jude Law back to the Kree homeworld with a message that she's coming to end things. Because it turns out that over the course of all of this, it's revealed that, the Skrulls we just don't want to be subject to tyranny, and we just want to find a home for ourselves and sympathy. So she winds up flying off to help them find a new world to inhabit, to fight the Kree wherever she encounters them, and basically explain her absence for the entire rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But she does leave Nick Fury with he has a two-way pager, which was banging technology back in the early 90s. She does boost its signal capabilities and tells him that if there's ever an emergency, he should call on her. And apparently it took only, the actual wiping out of half of all life in the universe for Nick Fury to decide this was a good idea.
Not the invasion of the Chitauri, by the way.
Not the Chitauri invasion, not the attempted nuking of New York, not the murder robot that wanted to drop a giant meteor onto the planet.
Nope. The snap.
She leaves him with that. She flies off. He gets to hang her, and Nick Fury goes on to propose the Avenger Initiative, climb the ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. Phil Coulson will go on to die and then be resurrected in a mediocre television show that fizzled after season 1 but continues to chug along because Disney. And in our mid-credits scene, we get her arrival at Avengers HQ in the wake of the snap. And in our very end post-credits scene, we get the Flurkin, which is the cute little kitty that's actually a demon monster from beyond space and time, vomiting up the Tesseract onto Nick Fury's desk to explain why they had it.
You mean they didn't get it from the Red Skull's plan to use it after the Asgardians left it on Earth?
Yeah, there's a lot of history with the Tesseract in between Howard Stark recovering it and then the cat dry heaving it up onto Nick Fury's overcrowded desk.
Well, apparently Howard Stark found it, and somewhere in between that, Mar-Vell got a hold of it and was using it as an energy source at her satellite in orbit.
I mean, that would be a convenient explanation for why she went to Earth in the first place, but still, I was kind of, for half the movie, wondering, wait a second.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this movie. Again, I'm pretty sure I glossed over a few things that we can get to into more specific detail once we get into the film itself, but Mark, before we get into the plot and the film, the actual film craft, when we actually talk about the movie, you wanted to have a brief bit about addressing the controversy over Brie Larson putting her foot in her mouth at a public event.
With two things. One, the whole reason to at least bring this up is we almost had a Ghostbusters moment here with a slightly better film than Ghostbusters Answer the Call, slightly. This is kind of the state of where we are with certain movies where I was thinking about this earlier. There's such a need right now in Hollywood to virtue signal and identity. What's the phrase?
Politics.
With identity politics.
Identity politics and the hierarchy of victimhood, and there's a few other buzzwords about it.
But
intersectionality.
Find a movie and and make it a cause, and it doesn't matter how good or bad the movie is. It's like if it has a certain gender, if it has a certain race as its lead, suddenly it's a triumph for said race or gender, and it's like we're losing sight of quality of movie. Ghostbusters was a good movie to some people because it's had 4 women leads in a movie that previously had 3 male leads in Ernie Hudson.
Hey.
He was not
What's wrong with Ernie Hudson?
He was not a lead in that movie. Sorry. He comes in halfway through, has a few funny lines, and just happens to be there in the conclusion. He was not the lead. Come on.
Okay. Fair enough.
You know what? I'll give you that. I love Ernie Hudson. He's awesome.
And look,
But
I'll give you. He's the lead in Oz. He's absolutely the lead in Oz, but not the lead in Ghostbusters. Sorry.
One of the leads in Ghostbusters too.
I'll give you that one.
There's actually a fan petition to get him cast as J. Jonah Jameson in an upcoming Spider-Man movie. I could see that.
It could work, but why wouldn't you just get J.K. Simmons back? I mean,
okay, if that had to be the case, then obviously J.K. Simmons will always be J. Jonah Jameson. But if he had to cast someone new, Ernie Hudson would be good.
So I go back to this movie, right? If you didn't have all the virtue signaling and gender politics around, like none of that existed, and the movie was just put out there, I think everyone would agree it's a meh to mediocre superhero action film and not one of Marvel's best. And that would be the end of the conversation. But the movie gets kind of lost, and the discussion of the quality of the movie gets lost in the guys in Half in the Bag kind of summed it up really, really well, and that's why I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, because if you want the best summary of what happened with Brie Larson and everything that kind of happened around it, just watch the Half in the Bag for Captain Marvel after the first 8 minutes if you don't want to hear about how great or bad Milwaukee is.
It's terrible.
But
Red Letter Media is not sponsoring this podcast.
No, they are not. I just give them a lot of free publicity for what it's worth. But what's driving me kind of nuts is you have Brie Larson out there who makes a comment badly. She puts her foot in her mouth when she starts talking about, for the third time, I don't hate white dudes. Like, the message she's trying to get across is fine. The way she does it is poor and comes across as entitled. But then what's even worse is, like, the next day, practically, on YouTube are hundreds and hundreds of videos saying things like the MCU is dead. The Marvel Cinematic... This is what I kind of wanted to talk about. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is dead. And they're saying it because Brie Larson was casted as Captain Marvel, and they've now jumped to this conclusion that by virtue of casting her, she's so terrible that she's going to sink the entire multi-billion-dollar franchise.
No.
There's this belief out there that... Kevin Feige has gone on to say that we're going in a female-centric kind of A-Force. If you don't know what A-Force is, it's the comic book that had the all-female Avengers from an alternate universe. This is where they have Hispanic Captain America, and the whole thing is led by She-Hulk. In any case, they're going in more of an A-Force direction with Captain Marvel as the Iron Man central figure, which you may or may not think is a good idea, but there are people who are taking that bit of information and going, well, then that's it. That's the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This whole thing is good. Like, if you feature women, you've lost the plot. Everything is going to fall to crap. It's all going to turn to sand, and that's going to be the end. This is a repeated thing, a repeated theme I've seen throughout many videos on YouTube, and I'm sure if you go out and look at message boards and Reddit, it would be there as well. I don't particularly do much Redditing. And then there are people who just got directly insulted by the Brie Larson thing and just reacted to that. But I mean, it's just, I'm going to shut up and kind of let you guys just break in here. But it's just frustrating for me that we live in this world where people can essentially have no information, no valid information, have only their opinions, their utterly biased, butthurt opinions, and can make a quote unquote authoritative video on a subject saying this multi-billion-dollar industry is going to collapse. It's the stupidest propaganda I've ever seen. And
we saw Fighting with My Family a few weeks ago.
And we saw Fighting with... It's the stupidest propaganda that I've ever seen. And I feel like it's taking up space where just focusing on the movie should be. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to have to keep having this conversation, but because this shit keeps happening, the same thing that happened with Ghostbusters is kind of happening again, only this movie is successful and that one wasn't. And it's going to happen again the next time around. My favorite thing about this overall, and then I'll pitch over to Alexis and then David, my favorite thing about this entire thing has been these guys who, they don't want to admit they're sexist. They don't want to admit that they just fucking hate girls. So they hide behind, well, I just don't like Captain Marvel. Bring on the Black Widow movie. God help them if Scarlett Johansson says something stupid in public. But there was a lot there was a lot of that too. There was a lot of, well, I just don't like Captain Marvel. Bring on Black Widow. It's like, oh, you fucking liar. You just hate women. All right.
For the record, the Black Widow movie is supposed to be a prequel, and they're actually looking for a younger actress. I've heard they're looking at mind blank, Hermione Granger.
Yes. Though I thought they were
Emma Watson.
Though I thought they were using Emma Watson as one of the villains. I didn't know they were using her as the actual Black Widow.
Oh,
well, she is British.
They might be. I mean, unfortunately, I've just been hearing rumors at this point. And for the record, Emma Watson has done a few films where she's had an American accent, and she's not terrible.
That was just more of a joke of how there tends to be a tendency to go towards having British people play villains in American movies.
And
hey,
for that,
Shazam's coming up, and Mark Strong's the villain.
I was going to say, if you want to hear a great bit on why British people are always the villains in American movies, you got to check out this. One of Eddie Izzard's bit sums it up great. Alexis, you saw the half in the bag summation of the Brie Larson thing. You've pretty much got all the information there is to get out of that. Your reaction, your thoughts, your ideas?
Mostly that the guys doing the half the bag were pretty freaking stupid. I mean, I'm sorry. I thought the video was annoying as hell, and not just the whole Milwaukee crap.
Okay, you want to back that up? Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. I saw the video. Okay, I did not actually know anything about this controversy until you guys actually showed me the video. I had not really been paying attention to that part of it.
Okay.
I was just going, I want to see this because I want to know how Captain Marvel was going to be in Avengers Endgame, because as far as I'm concerned, the world is stopping when that movie comes out. Everyone get out of my way.
Amen.
Yeah. Saw the video, and I saw her calling basically for more diversity in critics, and I thought, well, she's technically not wrong.
Right.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more diversity in critics. I wouldn't mind seeing more female critics, more critics of different races. I have nothing against that. And then I saw, all this blow up of Brie Larson hates men. I'm on all these Facebook boards for movie geeks and comic geeks. And I saw all these posts about people saying, I'm not going to go see Captain Marvel. I don't need to support, men hating crap. And they're going, how did you guys get this? And I realized, they're not actually watching the video. They're just reading the headlines of the articles. And unfortunately, a lot of journalists who actually did write articles giving a balanced review use that as a lead-in to grab more viewers and more readers. So
essentially it was clickbait. It was Brie Larson hates men, and then small print. Not really. Here's what I thought of the movie.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I saw so much of that, and I'm a 34-year-old white woman. I've never really had to deal much with the whole "you can't do this, you're a woman" crap. I've never had that big of an obstacle in my face. Whatever I wanted to do, I pushed ahead and I did it. I didn't have somebody saying, that's not going to happen for you, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I just sat back watching all these reviews, all these people saying they refused to watch the movie because they felt that it was supporting man-hating and all this whining, and trying to remember if this happened when Wonder Woman came out. I'm about 85% sure it didn't.
No. But none of the marketing around that. Gal Gadot wasn't out there making comments relative to gender either.
I think there were some early women-only screenings for Wonder Woman, and that was a bit of a thing that people were complaining about. But yeah, that just blew
That
over
was
at the end.
I was going to say that was a minor harumph for anyone that paid attention to it, and then people got past it. But I mean, but Gal Gadot herself in the marketing for Wonder Woman was not making any kind of political or could be politicized comments. She was like, "I'm just glad to be in the movie. I hope everyone enjoys it." I don't remember Gal Gadot being particularly hot button on anything.
Well, I've also really seen such a massive increase of trolls on sites like Rotten Tomatoes and such who are review bombing the hell out of what's supposed to be a popular movie. We've seen this happen more from DC fanboys, although I'm hoping that the DC crybabies have backed off a little bit because Aquaman was kick-ass. And I am looking forward to seeing Shazam next month. That movie looks legitimately good. And yes, Mark Strong's playing the villain again. Guess what? He's only played a good guy once, and that was in the Kingsman movies, and he was awesome in that. But the man plays a villain well. Same with Gary Oldman. Don't knock your strengths.
I feel like the cottage industry of saying, because girl, thing fail, starts with Star Wars. Like, there's an entire cottage industry now of videos that are about how Lucasfilm is on death's door and is in like financial collapse because Kathleen Kennedy decided they wanted to make it more female centric, more inclusive for female, wanted to make the content more female centric, wanted to make the product itself more female fan inclusive.
If only they would do a movie starring like a white male aged 18 to 35 playing a cisgendered heterosexual, that would just make tons of money. And if they made it like really address lots of lore and like character history in the Star Wars universe, I mean, that would just be the most money-making Star Wars film they could ever make.
I like where you're going with this. You know what it needs, though? It needs a train robbery in space.
Yes, brilliant.
Lucasfilm, do you hear us? Go with this idea. Print money.
You need to know what the Kessel Run is. And how did he get his name? This is box office gold, baby. It's everything the real fans, quote unquote, could ever want. Sorry, Alexis, didn't mean to steal you to the floor.
It's okay. I was mostly just trying to get Eddie to stop growling here in the background. I didn't know if you guys heard that or not.
No.
Yeah, I thought he was being supportive.
I don't know if he was being supportive or he was just saying more ear scratches now.
I'm going to go with the latter.
I mean, what's the difference, really?
Yeah, I can't blame him for that one.
Anything else here on the controversy?
The fact is that, I know that some people feel that as a woman, I should be out there with the signage and the sloganeering saying, yes, more women in movies, more diversity. And while I'm not going to lie that I know that that's a good thing and it is something I want to see, in the long run, I just want to go buy a ticket, go grab some popcorn and a Coke Zero, sit back and enjoy a good film.
Real quick before we move on to David, what specifically, not the Milwaukee stuff and not the film review itself, what about their presentation of the controversy did you think was badly done?
I don't know. I felt like they were just mostly I felt like they were really trying to blow up the whole clickbait fact of talking about how she was like, oh no, she doesn't hate white men and their sarcastic tones. I really felt like they were making fun of it. And okay, I'll just say it was like watching Fox News.
Okay. Well, they absolutely were making fun of it, but they were making fun of the culture around trolls and victims that has grown out of being a fan of movies.
Maybe it's just because I will say this. I don't watch Red Letter Media that much. I've got a handful of other internet YouTubers that I watch. I guess I was expecting more of an actual movie review than just complaining about it. And honestly, they said, do you recommend Captain Marvel at the end? I paused. I thought, you guys didn't talk that much about the movie.
Now, they spent I think of a 40-minute review, in quotes. They spent a good part of it on the controversy and very little of it on the movie itself. David, you want to weigh in here on the controversy?
Sure. I mean, to get into like all why things are the way they are in the public space right now would be an entirely different and lengthy podcast. But to sort of just give the quick and dirty, shallow version, I mean, Hollywood tends to be a pretty left-leaning place. It's just artists, creatives.
No.
In my
Why? How dare
to...
you, sir?
I
refuse
know.
to believe this. You have completely distorted my worldview.
I know. I apologize for attacking your identity.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, and right now it's a very things are pretty polarized, and you add in the internet echo chamber algorithm effect of everything, and plus just controversy makes for good clickbait. So that I think a lot of that just kind of came together to sort of make this mess. And like what really got me interesting is just like all these reviews that people wrote despite not actually having seen the film, and just the sort of level of like how crazy has this gotten that people are getting this worked up about a movie they haven't seen. And
I think a couple of my favorite things that happened before the film actually got released were people complaining the movie is bad because Brie Larson is bad in this movie because she's not smiling in any of the trailers
that's where I was
or in the
going next,
pictures.
yeah.
And I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. But, you know me, I have to make a joke out of everything. And so there was a podcast recently where Jesse and I were doing plugs or whatever, and we plugged Captain Marvel. And we kept coming up with like different surnames for it. So one of the ones I came up with was Captain Marvel. Go on and smile, you cunt, and which I stole from Marilyn Manson. And Jesse almost fell over laughing.
Has any superhero in a poster smiled besides Groot?
I don't think so.
No.
I think Brie Larson actually put that on like her Twitter feed as a response to that. It's just like every poster from every previous Marvel movie showing that on none of the characters were smiling.
Smiling?
Yeah, because they don't smile on those posters.
And smiling about what? What would they be smiling about?
It's just a ridiculously shallow and stupid thing to complain about, and it's just like at this point, I'm willing to accept that people are able to like and dislike things based on things other than the politics or identities, diversity, any of that stuff in the actual work. But like to come up with such a stupid reason, like you guys got to be just covering for you just don't want to say it.
Yeah.
And it's just and then you see the movie and it was fine.
I would respect a lot of the YouTubers and Reddit people and those that really deep inside don't like Star Wars now or the MCU or DC because of the female-centric direction they're going in. If they just admitted they hated girls, like for whatever their reasons are, just put that out there as your reason. Don't hide behind stupid things like she's not smiling. Bring on Black Widow. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, personally, I mean, just about the Star Wars thing, my issues with Rey were largely stemmed from The Force Awakens, where I thought she was a giant Mary Sue. And then they went a long ways towards fixing that with The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but at least that's an argument I can see where people are coming from. I can see their evidence, like, okay, I see how you arrived at that conclusion. But the smiling thing, I'm just like...
That was a lot of nothing. Like, anyone complaining about that is just...
No, a lot of the complaints
about... want to complain.
A lot of their complaints are about the purple-haired chick from The Last Jedi. And that's virtue signaling that Star Wars is going in a female-driven direction, and that's why Lucasfilm is in financial collapse. That's the argument.
I'm just grateful that none of the posters feature Brie Larson with her ass to the front of the poster. Because let's face it, that's what they did with most of Black Widow. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah,
well, I mean, Brie Larson also doesn't have much of an ass.
Boo!
Come on, someone had to say it.
Then we get the other side all complaining.
Going back to that, actually, I'm always laugh when I think back to the first set photos that dropped. It was Brie Larson in her Kree colors, and people were complaining because it was a fairly loose-fitting outfit. And yeah, she clearly didn't have an ass filling it out. To which I saw and I thought, oh, that's probably actually a stunt costume that's a little roomier down there so she can move around a bit, whatever. To which I just absolutely love the comment of, Carol Danvers does not exist for your boner.
Which is very true. Like, I don't have a complaint about her costume at all in this. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't know why you would complain about it.
I thought it was pretty kick-ass, and I like how they showed how it changed colors. I actually thought that was very creative.
Have you seen the videos that point to the fact that they actually had an ass double for her?
I have not seen those.
Nor am I going to indulge in that.
I'm going to send you all a link to the stuff referring to the butt double.
Fair enough. All right, last thing I have on this. You know, for an Oscar-winning actress, and for an actress as good as Brie Larson can be, you'd think that her script reading for that stupid award show she was at when she said all these things would have been better. Because, man, is that just not the most stiff reading I've ever seen. I don't have anything to say about the controversy. She said something in a mostly stupid way, and then it blew up because people tend to blow things up like this. There was nothing to it.
Are we this sensitive as generally speaking as a society? We can't take anything a celebrity says, and as one of the guys from Red Letter Media said, just go, you're a dingbat, and move on with our lives. We have to go into must pour my displeasure out on the internet and make wild conjectures.
Well, I think that like 80% of the population roughly is just that. Like, they don't really care. They just want to see a movie about a woman that punches things with fire that goes out of her fists.
I'd like to remind you that the last time a celebrity started saying crap and people said, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter, those people elected him president.
4 more years. 4 more years.
He's gonna win re-election, guys. Get used to it.
Yeah.
But it's just how ridiculous things get on the other sides of that group, that it's just like, how the heck do people like see the world this way? And that sort of becomes its own form of entertainment or curiosity.
Let me end this part of the discussion with this. Then we can get into the actual movie. I became aware of the Brie Larson thing through not Red Letter Media, but Midnight's Edge, and they did a video on it because, and again, it starts off with here are some facts, and then here are wild conjecture. Rob, I actually sent you this video. I didn't send it to you too.
I'm aware of Midnight's Edge.
Okay. Or maybe I might have shown her to Alexis for a whole other reason, but it was basically movie projections. What do you call it? Projections for tickets for the movie started at like 150, 160, and then after she made the comments about quote unquote white dudes, dropped to 100.
Yeah.
And what's left out of that simple sentence is there were several different companies doing projections in wildly different ways and coming up with wildly different numbers. So it wasn't just a drop. It was one group had it at 120, one group had 160, and then afterwards there were some changes. And then, and so people took that information, took the Brie Larson thing and their hurt feelings, and went, Brie Larson is going to tank this movie and then bring down the MCU with it.
You did show me that video, and I think at the end of it we agreed it's not a case of Brie Larson has tanked the MCU. It's a case of you suck at math. Right.
Well, and this is the point. It debuted, and we'll get to the money later, but this is the headline. It had $153 million first weekend domestic, and it's currently at around $500 million worldwide. Everyone in the world is an asshole and should stay off of YouTube.
Okay,
that's where I'm coming from.
Here's going to be the last word on this, and then we'll get on to the film proper.
Why I like everyone in the world is an asshole and should stay off of YouTube.
I would just like to point out that, like, the barrier to entry for film criticism is at an all-time low. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm here.
Well done.
Look, anyone who thought that this movie was going to tank is a moron. There was no reason to believe that it would. Absolutely none. This isn't Ghostbusters where nobody really wanted it to begin with. Nobody wanted another Ghostbusters movie.
We're getting another one.
Maybe.
It's not that nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted the Ghostbusters movie with 3 out of the 4 gals from Saturday Night Live and Michelle McCarthy.
I just didn't want to go. I just don't like movies that are 90 minutes of jokes that aren't funny.
Yeah,
yes,
Marge McCarthy, whatever her name is.
With at least like one joke per minute.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, that's just rapid-fire one-liners, and none of them land. It's the worst stand-up set you could possibly imagine.
Finish your point.
I know there are people who like that money. I envy them.
Finish your point. Go.
I just said bring out whatever the hell you want as long as it can go buy Ecto Cooler.
Fair enough.
I have my priorities.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Again, anyone who thought this was going to actually tank were morons. There was nothing about this that was going to tank it. Disney handled the controversy correctly. They didn't do what Sony did. They didn't blow it up. They didn't fuel the fire. They quieted things down. They let it burn itself out. And guess what? No one cared.
Well, it's not like they're going to pull a James Gunn again. They can't afford to fire Brie Larson.
No, they cannot. They're kind of stuck with her at this point.
Yet. I don't know. They might. Oh, God.
Well, only if they replace her with a black woman, at one point there was a black Captain Marvel in the comics.
Well, let's talk about the possibility of introducing Kamala Khan much later down the road, shall we?
That's Ms.
Sure,
Marvel. That actually wasn't who I was referring to. There's a cosmic. Okay, so in the movie, right, the little black kid that
Photon, yeah.
In the comics, she's a version of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Photon. That's her. That's her superhero name.
Okay.
That was actually the nod to her mother's code name on the side of her plane.
Call sign.
All right, so let's get into the actual movie. I'm gonna shoot from the hip here and go first, and then we'll kind of go around the thing. I'll keep it short, just for time here. But the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, it was a fun, very briskly paced action movie. I liked the idea of she is the mystery of her life. I like that idea, that concept as a plot, where she has to now go back to the beginning and try to figure out who she is. And when she gets there, voila, she becomes what she was always meant to be. I did like the feminist theme in the movie. I enjoyed that, this idea of all of these people saying you can't do it and holding you back, and you've got one arm tied behind your back.
Man, they just casted that guy to be the biggest douche.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the casting call. Do you look like a douche? Well, come on in. We have a room for you in Captain Marvel. But it worked for me. I liked, she goes from somebody who has to hold back and has to hold back her emotions and, told you can't do it and all this other stuff. And her sort of arc is getting past all of that and realizing, I'm going to be all the things, and, that's when she's successful. Okay, I liked all of that. There's a lot of complaining about how she's too stoic and wooden and kind of flat through the movie, and I feel like that's unfair. She's playing a soldier, and I think
so was Chris Evans.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. When he's actually in action doing stuff, he's not the whole time cracking wise. And go back and watch some of the Avengers and Captain America movies. Chris Evans is not exactly a clown. I would not call him as quippy.
Steve Rogers is not a clown. Chris Evans absolutely is.
He's not as
if you follow him on Twitter, absolutely.
He's not as quippy as Tony Stark, is my point. I think
you also have Captain America has a bit more of a poignant backstory about the whole being so small and learning not to run away. So I think you get a little bit more development with that.
So
he's the best. Look, Steve Rogers is the best developed character in the MCU, from where I sit.
Let me
no argument.
Let me get through this, okay? So so this whole thing about like, oh, she's too wooden, I feel like she's directed as trying to be serious, and then, like any human being, she has these moments of quippiness that I think deep down inside are a part of her personality. I thought Brie Larson did okay with that. Maybe it's a little unbalanced. Maybe it bothered, people, but it didn't. That's not what bothered me about her. I thought her presentation as this character was fine. I mean, it didn't wow me, but again, I joked with Robert earlier that she's kind of female Tony Stark, which is again what they said about what's his face, Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. That's kind of the formula for a leading character for a lot of these people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is they have a quippy, lighthearted nature about them somewhere in there, to one degree or another. Samuel L. Jackson was fine as Nick Fury. He was fun. They did like a buddy cop thing, the two of them, and that all worked for me. There were plenty of humorous bits in there. So that's all the good. The bad, how she got her powers is the most fucking retarded thing I've ever seen in my life. With all of the superheroes in the MCU, for the most part, they come about their powers in a very proactive way. She just happened to be there when the fucking engine blew up. And I was saying to Rob, like, with the Hulk, in the comic books, they've kind of gone back and explained that there's something about him and his genetics that made him able to survive what no other human would have survived in the gamma explosion. Here, she's there when the engine explodes, and there's no explanation for why it didn't kill her. She just happens to absorb all of this energy for no good reason, and then it turned her into the living laser. Which brings me to my second point. She's so fucking overpowered that, getting past the
Just say Mary Sue, man. Just say it.
Getting past the that was fun moment of her blowing up the Kree ships at the end, I'm like, well, I'm thoroughly disinterested in this character now. She can do anything. This is, we've now created female Superman, but less interesting. The ugly, it's bland. It's just a bland, lacking aesthetic movie. It's, I felt like this was the most safest, written by committee Marvel product that they've come up with to date. I mean, it's very Phase 1, but at least some of Phase 1 had great aesthetic to it. Captain America and Thor both had really nice aesthetics that, differentiated them. Jon Favreau's original Iron Man, you could say doesn't really have an aesthetic to it, but Jon Favreau's direction has a certain stuff.
Flair.
So, I mean, this is like right up there with Iron Man 2 and the Hulk in terms of this has no style, no aesthetic. It's just a flat presentation of an action movie. And if this wasn't a Marvel movie, if this was just kind of, thrown out there with no context, I don't even think we'd be talking about it. I don't know if I even would have seen it.
We didn't talk about Jupiter Ascending, so we wouldn't have talked about this.
No, we did not. All right. That's kind of my take on it. Alexis?
I agree that it was a little on the bland side. The directors for this also did Half Nelson, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is a very good film. And Marvel.
Isn't that wasn't that what kind of gave Ryan Gosling his acting break?
Yep.
Want to make sure I was remembering that correctly.
No, you're right. That is it. And lost my train of thought there. I suddenly started thinking Ryan Gosling's abs. Why do you have to do that to me?
Hubba.
No, the film is a little bland. It is a note that the other directors who have come into the MCU all gave a really unique style. You look at the previous one, you look at Thor, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, you look at Iron Man, and yes, the directors all put they put their own style into it. These directors definitely played it a little on the safe side.
Hang on, one thing I got to throw in there in the ugly category. Don't put out a pro-feminist action superstar hero movie and then set their cumulative fight scene to "I'm just a girl"?
Okay, I actually did roll
Mark,
my
it has
eyes
the word
pretty hard.
girl
with
in
that.
it and an upbeat tune.
Go
It's like
ahead,
all those
Alexa.
songs that have the word America in it that they like to play, but nobody knows the words other than America.
Look, there's a very specific reason Bon Jovi collects residuals from "Living on a Prayer," because the song has the word "docs" in it.
Go ahead, Alexis. We all talked over you.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine, but yes, I'll admit I really didn't like that moment. But there was a lot of parts of this movie I greatly enjoyed. I loved Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson's chemistry. These two worked off each other very well. The de-aging on Jackson and Clark Gregg, the actor who played Coulson, is perfected. There's no other way to say it. You forget watching this movie that Samuel L. Jackson doesn't look like it. You're watching this movie and you swear they just plucked him right off of the set of Die Hard with a Vengeance. He looks amazing, and the CGI on him is perfect. So I really did enjoy that. And I do have to say this, since no one else has brought this up yet, probably one of the absolute best Stan Lee tributes I've ever seen.
Oh, God. The way they changed the entire opening Marvel credits to just his cameos from the movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, and it's great.
I nearly cried, and I squeaked louder than anyone else in the theater when he shows up on the train reading the Mallrats script. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I believe my reaction was, "Aw."
I do love Kevin Smith's reaction, though. He tweeted out this picture of him saying that when he saw it, they did not tell him they were going to do this. And when he saw that they had included his script in the movie, he started crying. He was so touched. He was so overwhelmed. And he said, "But now I have a serious question. Since it's now established that I, as a character, exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, did I survive the snap?"
No. That's why you survived your heart attack in our reality.
Oh, shit, that's actually a really clever idea. But no, I really liked that. The makeup on the Skrulls I thought was just amazing. And yeah, I loved Goose. I loved the Flurkin. Oh my God, I thought that was so freaking awesome. I knew
It's almost like they planned it that way.
Well, everyone was talking about how cute it was she had a cat, but I was familiar with, well, in the comics it's not Goose, it's Chewie. And I was familiar with that story. I'm like, okay, are they actually going to go for it? And then, yeah, the cat sprouts the tentacles. I'm like, yes, Flurkin!
Well, if they called it Chewie, they might get sued by whoever owns Star Wars.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they changed the name, but I'm not going to complain about changing the name to Goose. It's like, you know what, that actually kind of fits a little bit better. I'm fine with it.
I thought
Just
it was
Top Gun reference.
Yeah.
I did. I have to admit, the thing that blew me away the most, I think, was Annette Bening's casting as Mar-Vell. In the comics, and every single incarnation of this
And almost summoned something there.
moving on. Mar-Vell has always been this very stoic male lead. When Jude Law was cast in the movie, I, among others, basically put up her hand and said, he's Mar-Vell. And he's perfect casting for Mar-Vell. And then they said, no, he's not Mar-Vell. I'm like, what do you mean he's not Mar-Vell? And then they reveal Annette Bening is Mar-Vell. And I was like, whoa, okay, did not see that coming. That's actually quite good.
I liked her dancing to "Come As You Are."
Look, again, she has to try and make believe that Nirvana isn't the absolute worst. She does a passable job.
Please walk into traffic.
I have. It swerved around me.
Anything you did not like about the movie? Anything that didn't work for you other than the stupid choice of "I'm just a girl" to your overpowered fucking feminist hero?
Trying to think. Well, I know a lot of people are complaining about the fact that they painted the Skrulls as good guys. Because, yeah, the Skrulls in the comics do not have a history of being on the good side.
My dad tonight pulled me to we were at my daughter's concert, and we're waiting for the kids to come out and sing. My dad pulls me to the side. He goes, "Weren't the Skrulls all bad guys? Wasn't there a whole secret invasion? Haven't they all historically been bad guys in the comics?" And I whispered to him. I made sure no one was listening, and I whispered ever so gently into his ear, "It's a fucking comic book. Get over it."
Well, I was a little confused about that, especially since, I have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, oh my god, I don't know how many times. So I was sitting there going, wait, so Korath and Ronan are good guys? When the hell does that switch happen? So, there was that. And that part was a little confused, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this, Mark. I've joked with you before. We were supposed to review the Carmen Sandiego animated series, and I made a joke about how they had done the whole thing with Carmen Sandiego, same thing they did with She-Ra, which we had also reviewed on your show. The fact that this was a powerful female character who suddenly realized that she was working for the bad guys. And then I saw the flashback, and we find out confirmed that the Kree are evil, and she stormed out of the house. I thought, are you kidding me again?
It's like a play on the old Mel Brooks line. It's like, so this is why good will never beat evil, because good is dumb.
Well, it's also kind of the point where, can you actually write an evil female character these days without being labeled a misogynist?
No, you can't. All right, if there's nothing else there, we'll go over to David. Anything else?
Well, I think you guys have covered a lot of it. I'll see if I can come up with anything else. His brain not working too fast today. But, looking at the Red Letter Media review, you mentioned how they barely talked about the movie itself. Well, I think that's kind of a testament to, how basically bland it is. It's, talking about the controversy is just so much more interesting than talking about the actual film. where I found the film to be, I enjoyed it. I had a good time, but I will admit that it's a very serviceable film. There's nothing super standoutish about it in terms of a plot or character sense. I did get worried for a brief minute when they were doing the whole sort of misogyny montage, but that ended, and then the movie just progressed, and it was no big deal. I did think that this is funny because of my comments about Battle Angel, about having the whole I'm not going to give you the upgraded suit because I don't want you to fight, and then come on, we know she's going to have it by the end of the movie. Get on with the fight scene, and then in Captain Marvel, we basically get a very brief just flashback of her standing up a whole bunch of times. Like, oh, okay, she's self-realized, she's got her confidence and groove back, and she's just gonna super overpower the bad guy and then kick butt. It seemed like they kind of sped through that, but like I say, I don't really want to go into hypocrisy here. But maybe they could have fleshed that aspect of the character out a little bit
actually
more.
Write a character rather than Poochie.
Kind of, yeah. So,
except she doesn't die on her way back to her home world.
Hey, there's still Endgame.
Yeah. Mind you, Earth technically is her home world, but, moving on. I like the whole Skrulls. Turns out that, actually they're the good guys and we're actually the bad guys thing. As for the Skrulls not being bad guys anymore, I mean, the MCU has its own continuity based on the comics. I mean, as far as I know, Ego, the planet, is not Peter Quill's father. Don't all these characters actually have secret identities at some point?
Yes.
Nobody seemed to complain when Tony Stark said, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to say I'm Iron Man instead of going with the bodyguard story." Thanos is apparently interested in ending overpopulation as opposed to giving a big gesture of affection for Death, who he is in love with.
In fairness, you could not possibly translate his nihilist in love with the living embodiment of Death onto the big screen. It just wouldn't work.
It would be
But
laughable.
I would have loved to have seen them try.
Fair enough. I would watch that.
I would have paid money to see Thanos, and basically Death, just a cloak with eyes, as he look what I've done for you, and Death giving him the cold shoulder. It'd been hilarious.
I mean, remember, I was still getting over the whole Galactus
flashbacks.
Galactus being some giant that eats planets. Let's make him a cloud. That sounds so much cooler.
Can we not bring that crap up again, please?
Yeah. But I always like the MCU because they kind of embrace the silliness of their source material. If they had made Thor in the 90s, he would be a escapee from a mental asylum who believed he was the god of thunder, and he accidentally came into possession of a military super weapon that looks like a big hammer, and whose project acronym spells out Mjolnir, because a Shakespearean talking like actual Viking god. I mean, that is just the stupidest thing ever.
And don't forget, he would have had like a dozen pockets.
Yeah.
Because Liefeld.
Yeah, well, because like Batman, but.
Well, the joke I always make is if they made Doctor Strange in the 90s and the Cloak of Levitation probably would have had a voice and been making snappy comebacks.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It would have been Chris Tucker too.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't have afforded Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock.
Yeah, but like in like the one time where you'll probably ever hear me say anything positive about Alex Kurtzman as a like professional writer is when talking about Star Trek Discovery. He said that when it comes to like canon, if we have to choose between honoring canon or telling a good story, we'll go with telling the good story. And they've certainly skipped and messed up a lot of canon in that show. I'm still waiting for the good story part, but
I mean, it's a good sentiment, if nothing else.
yes. It's just if you have that thing called talent to back it up.
Or you could go the route of J.K. Rowling and just say screw it to everything.
Let me ask you guys a question. Here's something I was thinking about, even before the movie, but definitely after. So there's a big hullabaloo about this is the feminist iconic Marvel character. This is Captain Feminism.
Well,
right?
there are people on the internet turning themselves into pretzels trying to prove it still.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Like,
yeah, I mean, she has to fight the evil patriarchy played by a white woman.
Well, here's the thing. When you think about like what feminism is and what it represents and what it's meant to do, and you want to embody that in a character, I look at the female leads up to this point. You've had Black Widow, you've had the Wasp, Gamora, Valkyrie, what do you call it? Captain America's
Agent Carter.
I'm sure a bunch I'm just forgetting, but
Don't forget Hera, Goddess of Death. Thor Ragnarok.
was going with the good guys, but sure.
But get the bad girls there do too.
My point is,
Kate Blanchett's chewing of scenery is the only quasi-redeeming factor of Thor Ragnarok.
Ugh.
Oh, come on. I like Thor Ragnarok.
Hate everything about that movie.
Don't play into Robert's black hole of ridiculousness. My point.
Oh, no! I am not ridiculous in my issues with that movie. I might play it up a little bit for fun, but But you and I reviewed it. I stand by every point. You and
Pat reviewed it. I sat in a corner, while waiting to not get beaten. If I remember correctly,
you finally knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of that scenario.
Oh, shut up, you woman.
Whoa, wait a minute.
There's a joke. There's a stupid and poor taste gag that Mark and I developed after somebody was on the show when he and I started arguing. Said, "I feel like Dad just slapped Mom at the dinner table."
Okay, so in the middle of
I'm staying away from that one.
In the middle of what's becoming a tasteless conversation,
we should let it die.
In the middle of what is becoming a vastly tasteless conversation, what I was trying to ask the other two people on the panel was, isn't there a better feminist icon already set in the Marvel universe than Captain Marvel, or is this it? They finally created the best. Just your opinions.
I never thought about it in those terms.
Can't really think of anyone in the Marvel universe that I would call that. I mean, I'm obviously not the best demographic to be asking this question to.
I don't know, my first thought was the Wasp.
Again, when I went to see this movie, I was not thinking, oh, all right, we're finally getting a feminist icon. I was thinking, all right, this is supposedly the character who's going to be able to kill Thanos. Let's see what they can do.
Now they're going to have...
I was looking for.
Now they actually have to try and make Thanos seem imposing again, and I don't think they're going to pull it off.
Yeah, essentially they just made Captain Marvel into fucking Unicron. But okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to deal with that in future movies. I would assume that perhaps.
Welcome to the power creep, boys and girls.
Yeah. Well, one option is just have her show up from time to time when they do have a villain so powerful that they kind of need to have.
Well, here's the only saving grace of as powerfully overpowered as this Captain Marvel is that if they're going cosmic, and then Phase 4, Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Phase 5 is more of more cosmic storylines, more cosmic heroes. A lot of that stuff is already way overpowered. So it evens out. Like once they start getting into like Quasar and Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch and and all these other the Shi'ar Empire and all of that, I think okay, then her being as ridiculously overpowered as she was, it doesn't matter nearly as much, especially if you get into like the Celestials and like the Living Tribunal, Kang the Conqueror, all that shit. Okay, then all right, it's not so bad. Then everything kind of levels out again. Obviously, you can't have her running around with the Avengers on Earth, which kills me because the bathing suit version of Captain Marvel, she ran around with the Avengers all the time. Like she wasn't this crazy overpowered in the comics. All right, so that we can move on with this, Robert, you have the final word on the quality of the picture.
You mentioned people that were a bit off-put by the acting choices of Brie Larson. And in fairness, I don't know if this is acting, writing, directing, editing. It's where exactly the blame falls.
A lot of actors with Academy Awards in the Star Wars prequels, just saying.
Fair enough. I'm one of those people that was off-put by it. Not because it was, stoic/flat. I can live with that if it's consistent. And I thought there was just too much inconsistency with her character as far as, going from stoic to quippy one-liners in the midst of combat, back to stoic, for no reason other than this is where we fed the script, we put the basic ideas into the script machine, and it spit out at these beats we must have moment of levity. For me, what killed me a lot in this movie is in the action sequences, the editing is so bad. That whole I can't remember if it's the scene where she escapes from the ship or the one where she's captured or both. They cut like every second. It's badly put together from an editing standpoint. It just killed me. I liked Samuel L. Jackson. I agree with Alexis about the de-aging they did on him. That is beautiful stuff. And I'm a guy who gets taken out of movies by bad CGI very, very easily.
Oh, boy.
That's just for context as to how good that was, that it didn't bother me.
That is a pretty strong endorsement. If Robert's not complaining about the CG, that means something.
Yeah,
Thank
it does. No, I agree.
That all looked very, very good. I disagree with you about the pacing of the movie. This dragged for me a lot, especially in the middle. Like the whole second act just kind of drags.
I don't think you're right about that. I don't think you were enjoying the movie, and so for you it's dragging. But that I don't think is a comment on the pace. I think that's a comment on your personal enjoyment.
Entirely possible. I will freely admit that might have just been me wanting to. Like, okay, that we've spent enough time on this narrative beat. Can we move on, please? And it just never moves on. The entire finale. I mean, I know they wanted to go with 90s nostalgia, but for some reason they decided to then make their final action set piece just a rip-off of Dragon Ball Z. And just didn't work for me. I mean, I had a few major concerns about my personal enjoyment of this movie going into it. One, I hate amnesia stories. Just kind of generally speaking. There's very few of them that I find enjoyable. I went through a long period of time where every bit of media I consumed, like clockwork, would throw up another amnesia story because we didn't know what to do to fill this time. I don't like them. There's very few that are able to overcome that hurdle. A lot of the comments were about not how this made them nostalgic for the 90s. I lived through the 90s. They sucked.
Seconded.
Nostalgia doesn't work on me. So if part of your thing is nostalgia and an amnesia-based storyline and a character that I'm going into this, I'm fairly convinced they were just going to make as overpowered as possible. I hoped I was wrong about that one, but I was not.
I do miss Radio Shack, though.
I mean, sure. Everyone misses Radio Shack.
I liked Annette Bening dancing in Nirvana.
Of course you did. Because you don't... look, that use of Nirvana made only marginal more sense than having a bunch of lost children sing it to Hugh Jackman as he parades around his Blackbeard.
I'll give you that one.
I'm staying out of this because the 90s are back fashion-wise. I took my kid sister shopping this weekend. Everything has bright flower prints on it, and all the shirts are crop tops.
Makes sense. I mean, look, 10, 15 years ago it was the 70s that were back with bell-bottoms? We're just recycling, and we've reached the 90s that we're going to recycle. So I didn't think that worked. I took minor issue with the music. It just, I don't know. I get that they were kind of going for a Guardians of the Galaxy style, soundtrack, but at least James Gunn had the common sense to give you a reason for this music other than, hey, it's from the 90s. Let's go ahead and try something. Hey, Nirvana, the death knell of music for a decade and a half, and that continues to have negatively impacted the entire industry.
How did you feel about her running around with a 9-inch nail shirt?
I don't care for 9 Inch Nails, but I respect Trent Reznor as a musician. I got a bigger kick out of Nick Fury looking at her going, you look like someone's disaffected niece. Lose the flannel.
I also did kind of like the line about this girl running around dressed for laser tag.
Yeah. I think that's, again, I think my biggest gripe, apart from the very bland nature of the movie, was it's not well edited. The shot selection and the way they composed them together for this movie was very, very jarring for me and just didn't work at all. Other than that, this is near the bottom of the barrel for Marvel movies for me personally. I don't think it's the worst, but bottom third.
That's for sure. All right. Alexis, anything else you want to add, or are we good? We can move on.
I really want to go listen to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness now.
I think they're touring. Are they? Are you? Have you checked to see if Smashing Pumpkins are coming to Kansas?
I'm going to look over the fact that I live on the Missouri side.
I don't know. For all I know, you live next to Salt Lake City.
Mark's one of those people. Mark's.
I don't cotton in geography, okay?
You're that guy that New Yorker had that cartoon about that thinks the United States is California, New York, and then
Florida.
there's this vast wasteland in the middle.
Yeah. You said
You're a
Kansas.
lot closer to it than I am.
I don't know. Maybe do you live near Chicago? Is that how that works? I know that's a thing.
You're in Kansas City, Missouri, right?
Yes. Sorry.
You are not.
Kansas City is a border town, and people here get really unnerved if you assume we live on one side or the other. It's kind of a button for us.
You're not the first person this week I've had to explain that there's a difference between Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, too.
Very much so.
I was okay. So you live in Langford, Ohio. I got it. Are you checking to see if Smashing Pumpkins are coming near your neck of the woods?
I'll take a look after the show.
All right.
But no, I did love, like I said, there were parts of the 90s callback that I did love. Although, I'm not going to lie, I did think it was a little overwhelming when she first lands. When she's standing outside the Radio Shack, she's on the phone, there's all of those posters and everything all over the place. I mean, yeah, we knew this was going to take place in the 90s. We got that when she crash landed into Blockbuster Video. Oh, I can't believe we haven't brought this up yet. The twist with Fury's eye. I figured we should talk about that.
I don't know. Like, on the one hand, I as a guy who appreciates a good subversion, him getting through that whole thing and then having the kitty cat scratch it, I appreciate.
I don't give a shit.
I liked his playing into it when Coulson comes in and says, "So is it true the Kree burned out your eye, sir? I will neither confirm nor deny." Like, just make up whatever story you want. It's gonna be better than what actually happened to me.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that it would be something like silly and potentially embarrassing, but he just keeps that secret, so everyone assumes that it's some badass thing. I was actually assuming that when he, after he did the trick with using the tape and the fingerprint, he said, you should see what I can do with a paperclip. Him sort of doing the Richard Dean Anderson thing on The Simpsons, where he gets like a rubber band and a paperclip and he hooks them together and then he like shoots it into his eye.
Just to get the contact lens out, so he can then balance it on his tongue to form a laser beam to burn through the ropes that are. I've seen that episode too many times.
There were two-part things that went through my head. Firstly, that I saw this on the Thursday night premiere, and as soon as that happened, there was a guy behind me who yelled, and I am not exaggerating, yelled in a crowded theater, "Seriously? That's how he loses an eye?" And the entire audience just went apeshit.
It would have been better if they had kept on putting him in situations where you think he's going to lose the eye, but it doesn't happen for the entire film.
I'm going to go ahead and say I don't care how Nick Fury loses his eye.
The other part that kills me is that I've watched, again, guys, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I've got almost all of the Marvel movies on my computer. I watch them constantly, especially since I work from home. They're really good to have on in the background while I'm working because I know them so well. And I keep going back to that line in Winter Soldier where Nick Fury says, "The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." And now I sit there and go, the person that you trusted was a cat?
Dude, cats are not trustworthy creatures.
First of all, neither one of you clearly watched the movie. It's not a cat, it's a flurkin.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, no, like I said, I'm just sitting here die hard because, like I said, I keep thinking about that scene from Winter Soldier. Like, last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. And it's like, I'm sorry. That scene is just made so much better now.
Did you?
I mean, they probably didn't have a plan when they had that line originally.
No.
I know, but it still makes it so much better.
It does.
Alexis, did you happen to listen to the most recent Damn You source material where we talked about Captain Marvel higher, further, faster?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to listen to that yet.
Well, that's Volume 1 of the 2014 Captain Marvel series. The trade paperback for Volume 2 is called Stay Fly. While I'm doing the money, go ahead and Google that. Google Captain Marvel Volume 2 Stay Fly and look at the cover.
All right.
All right, and so while she does that, here come the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right, on a $150 million budget, Captain Marvel has made a pittance, a measly, a heartbreaking, a bankrupting $490 million as of this recording. It is tracking to make a piddlin', a minor, a mere, an unjust $1 billion. Much like Black Panther and the last couple of Marvel movies. Not counting Infinity War, which made $2 billion, and I'm sure Endgame will also... Endgame's got to be the one to unseat Avatar, right? I mean, Avatar has been
If
the long...
it doesn't, nothing is.
I was going to say, it's the long-standing undisputed champion of movie sales. It's got to be, it's the Hulk Hogan of movies at this point. It's got to be unseated by something.
No. It's much worse than Hogan because it came along later. It's the John Cena. Avatar is the John Cena of movies.
All right,
But I agree with what you said. If Avengers Endgame doesn't finally unseat it, because I'm going to be honest, I hated Avatar. And I'm really hoping Endgame is what unseats. But if Endgame doesn't do it, Avatar is not getting touched for, I'd say, at least another 10 years.
Yeah, they're going to have to... I mean, really the only aspect of the movie going experience that's missing from any particular movie that might unseat it would be something that is just as... Avatar had... Avatar was this world that people wanted to live in. And they kept going to see the movie because they wanted to escape this reality and be in Pandora. Something else has to come along just like that, to create this otherworldly experience.
Well, they sure weren't going to see Avatar again for the script.
Or the acting.
Yeah.
Or the music.
So of course, the The weekend leader, obviously, was Captain Marvel.
Anyone that thought this was going to bomb had their head up their ass. There's just no reason to think that this was going to bomb. This is going to do gangbusters. It was always going to do gangbusters.
Yeah.
Such is life, guys.
So Captain
my
Marvel...
echo chamber disagrees with you.
Your echo chamber is a bunch of assholes.
Most echo chambers are.
So, of course, Captain Marvel debuted at number 1 with 153 million domestic weekend gross. It knocked How to Train Your Dragon out of the first part, which was it had been the number 1 for the last 2 weeks. That's number 2. Tyler Perry's Medea Family Funeral, which is the movie that Robert's been championing, fell from 2 to 3.
Don't even joke.
The Lego Movie Part 2 kept its place at number 4. Now, here's what I also find funny. People virtue signaling by saying, I'm not going to support Captain Marvel because of blah, blah, yakety schmackety. I'll go see Alita Battle Angel. There was a lot of that. So, Alita Battle Angel fell from 3 to 5.
I mean, if you'd rather go see Alita Battle Angel, Godspeed and Party On. They're about the same quality of movie.
Green Book stayed the same at number 6. Isn't It Romantic, which is a comedy, I believe, stayed at number 7. Greta stayed at number 8. Fighting with My Family fell from 5 to 9. Apollo 11 jumped from 15 to 10. What Men Want fell from 9 to 11. The Upside stayed at 12. Happy Death Day to You, 10 to 13. A Star Is Born, one of the Oscar nominees, fell from 13 to 14.
It won a few. At least, at a minimum, Lady Gaga won, I seem to recall.
Oscar winner, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Voice, 11 to 15. Run the Race, number 16. We had 2 debuts at 17 and 18, respectively, which is Badla and The Kid. Cold Pursuit, which is Liam Neeson Fights a Bear, 14 to 19.
He does not fight a bear.
Well, at least he's not fighting wolves again.
Liam Neeson is a bear.
I like the gray.
And then Everybody Knows fell from 22 to 20. Captain Marvel, as I said, is going to make $1 billion. It has no competition next week. It's the biggest film coming out this weekend.
Rest of the month.
It's
clear for the rest of the month.
Is Wonder Park, and that's an animated feature, but it's not going to touch this. And then the other one's like an indie film about 5 Feet Apart, is about like 2 people in a hospital who fall in love. Blah blah blah.
Cystic fibrosis brings people together rather than just drowning you in your own mucus.
Sure.
You could write taglines. That was brilliant.
That was.
Someone on the internet. This is your mission. Take the poster from that movie and Photoshop in that tagline.
So that's this weekend.
Just whatever you do, don't credit me with that. I don't need that.
The following weekend, it's not competition for this, but people will go see it. It's a African American horror movie, and that seems to bring out large crowds. But nothing that's going to really bite into Captain Marvel. And that's Us on the 22nd. Then the only competition that this thing has is 2 weeks later. It's the 29th of March, and it's Dumbo. And you and I talked about this. Dumbo will make a decent amount of money. It'll probably it'll make its budget, if not more. But I don't really think it significantly eats into Captain Marvel, nor do I think it does more than $500 million. So
that second trailer, I saw the second trailer for Dumbo ahead of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I saw every trailer ahead of this movie.
Basically confirmed a lot of my concerns about it. But on the plus side, at least the interactions between Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito will give me a few moments of stuff on screen that I might not hate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Keaton in that. It's going to take until April 5th before there's any significant competition. To paraphrase Pat Mellon, I got one word for you: Shazam. So I think that Captain Marvel
The second Shazam trailer actually gave me a lot more hope than I saw the first one and just kind of went, yeah, no.
I think that the Shazam's getting nothing but praise. It's getting good early reviews. A lot of positive buzz on it. This is not a particularly political movie. This looks like a lot of fun. This looks like something you can bring your kids to. this looks like another home run for DC. So, I would imagine Captain Marvel's going to be the number one movie in theaters until Dumbo comes out, and then Dumbo gets unseated by Shazam. Whether or not Shazam holds on to the number one spot or gives it up to Hellboy is a whole other topic that we'll get into.
That's iffy, man. Again, that first trailer for Hellboy left a very bad first impression. The second one, the Red Band, was better.
Yeah.
The Red Band was good.
So, all right. Any comments here? Any thoughts here on the money? If not, we're gonna go on to our final portion of tonight's festivities.
Disney's going to end with at least 3 movies in the top 5. At least 2 of them are going to be $1 billion at least.
Well, remember, Star Wars comes out later this year, so you figure it's going to be a race to the top between Endgame and the Final Jedi, the Force fucks you, whatever they call it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we got Frozen 2 coming out soon too.
Oh yeah. So
Okay, all hail the shirtless mouse overlord, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Nothing's even coming close this year.
Next week, they're saying like as of this week coming up, the deal is going to come to a couple of things. The Fox Disney deal the merger finally gets approved and is done. They're saying that they might actually be signaling some of the Fox Marvel properties at the end of Endgame if the deal goes through. Like they shot something for it. My guess is something related to the Fantastic Four. I don't think it'll be X-Men related, but one never knows.
I have been dying to finally see Fantastic Four be ripped out of Fox's hands. It's like you guys had 3 chances and you fucked them all up.
I don't know. I didn't mind the first one.
They increasingly got worse.
Well, that's the thing. Like the first Fantastic Four movie is not bad. It's affected. It's affected by the fact they went out of their way to try to make like a family film out of it. I think with a little bit more grist, a little bit more, a little bit more darker aesthetic, that's a savable movie. Now the second one's a pile of dog shit.
Jessica Alba.
The second one's a pile of horse shit, and then the third one, let's not discuss.
Well, the best one was the one that they never even released.
No, the Roger Corman one.
Roger Corman's is probably the objectively best Fantastic Four movie, which makes me sad because I have some affection for Michael Chiklis, and I think he could have done Ben Grimm justice if they hadn't stuck him in a giant styrofoam suit because the technology didn't actually exist to make the Thing look like the Thing when it came to the CGI at the time.
But at the same time, I actually like that they put him in the suit because, if they had tried to do CGI or something, it would have looked terrible. So I like that they were able to work with actual, costuming and makeup and such. It's like, okay, let's at least work with what we got. And they did. There is an impressive level of that.
Yeah, the Thing suit worked pretty good, I thought. Say what you will about those films.
It looks like the Thing, but it's also Michael Chiklis, and Michael Chiklis is about as tall as Tom Cruise.
So here's my guess. If they can get it worked out, if they've actually shot the footage, my guess is that there's going to be a nod to the Negative Zone, and in the Negative Zone, you're going to see the Fantastic Four spaceship. You're not going to see obviously the people in it, but there's going to be like a 4 on the they're gonna say somewhere in the Negative Zone, which is where Thanos probably ends up. They're going to throw him into the Negative Zone, and then somewhere in the Negative Zone, there's going to be a silver ship. And it's going to pass by the screen, and then it's going to be a close-up, and you're going to see 4 in the Negative Zone.
And it will be Bagman.
It will be Bagman. I'm done with you.
Well, they just got to keep Captain Marvel away from Rogue.
All right.
Oh, my God. All of the memes about that. Jesus Christ.
No. At this point, I hope they do it. I want Captain Marvel 2 to be Rogue draining her powers and putting her in a coma.
And on that note, I'm going to play sound effects now.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
In honor of Brie Larson, the following rotten reviews will be only women. Here we go.
Mark, why do you have to... No. I mean this in the serious... I get that this is a bit. I'm an egalitarian. I think You can suck as a critic regardless of your age, race, or gender.
I'm going to let Alexis decide. Alexis, do I go egalitarian? Do I go equality here, and I read I read despite gender, or do I only pick on the women this time?
I go 50-50, half men, half women.
I don't know.
All the self-identified attack helicopters out there are now mad with you.
All right, here we go.
They've been pissed off at me for other reasons. Whatever.
All right, Andrew Wyatt of The Lens. This features gender politics feels like a bit of a pose, too superficial to convey the source material's fiercely feminist mythology. Oh, by the way, did you find the cover? Like I asked you, did you see the cover?
Yeah, I'm torn between, ooh, look at the kid, he said, oh, Rocket Raccoon gotta give me nightmares.
He should give you nightmares. He's a murderous little ball of fur with a giant gun.
Well, there's a whole bit in the first one where he comes onto the ship and sees the Chewie and assumes it's a Flurkin and tries to kill it, right?
Yeah.
Kill it with fire. The features gender politics feel like a bit of a pose, too superficial to convey the source material's fiercely feminist mythology, and too desperate for applause for it to be regarded as sincere.
That's not terribly inaccurate.
It's kind of generic and bland. It's like funny. It's kind of generic and bland.
Like the movie.
Exactly. Now that it does, I don't know. It sounds safe. It sounds like the safest negative criticism someone can come up with.
Hey, you should have heard all of the criticism that we levied hellfire at over A Wrinkle in Time when no one wanted to actually say the movie sucked.
I love that every single time I do a review with you guys, we're either bitching about A Wrinkle in Time or we're bitching about Venom.
Have we added those to the drinking game yet?
Seriously, it's like those
it's on the bingo card.
We will never get over.
We haven't even brought up Venom yet, but now that you mention it. Speaking of Venoms and douche nozzles, Dan Murrell of Screen Junkies.
Oh, God.
A bit of a misstep at a... Hang on. I want to make sure Robert gets this. A bit of a misstep at a very crucial time.
Stick with honest trailers, guys. It's like the one thing you're good at.
Very anonymous time. We're biding our time till Endgame comes out.
Look,
are we talking about like next year when Disney just buys everything?
Look, I agree in the general sense that this transition phase between the old guard and the new guard is important. I don't think this is that big a misstep, and I don't think.
Am I the only one that thinks that when he says this crucial time, he's talking about the greater the greater context of where we are with Hollywood and the way we treat gender and all of that?
Look,
that's what I got out of that.
I'm going to give this moron a pass on that because I don't want to rant about it.
That's why I read it, though. God damn it!
Well, yeah, it's like, is he talking about about the time period as in, when, all hail the mouse? Is he talking about the period because this is post #MeToo? Is he talking about this period as in before, Avengers Endgame? It's not specific enough for us to know exactly what crucial step he's concerned about.
And again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt just because I don't want to rant about this failed political blogger who's now desperately reviewing film because his take on politics is so badly written and moronically assembled that he can't find a job doing that even on YouTube.
Well, not to mention actually doing stuff about politics involves working.
Tell me how you really feel, guys.
Yeah, my thing is just like the number of failed political bloggers who now review movies because they can't get paid for anything else is staggering.
Corey Coleman of Double Toasted. This could have been The Usual Suspects or Memento of Marvel, but they don't develop the character in an origin film.
No, hold on. He's operating from a faulty premise to begin with. Nothing about this movie could have even remotely reached something like The Usual Suspects or Memento. It is not positioned to do it. Marvel's not going to let any director take those kinds of artistic licenses. No. You're operating out of a mediocre premise to try and justify the fact that you didn't actually care for the movie. This was never positioned to be something great and artistic. It was positioned to make a lot of money. That's it. That's all it's doing.
Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com.
You self-employed loser.
There we go. I was waiting for that. The filmmakers think that in order to make someone look strong, you need to make them look emotionless, and I just don't agree.
I mean, that's a valid point. B, no, the filmmakers for this seem to think that to make someone look strong, you have to make them so stupidly overpowered there's no threat to overcome.
Was this guy just also complaining because Captain Marvel doesn't smile?
Yes. Go on, smile, you...
You know, I actually got to add something here about that whole smile controversy. There's an extra reason it pisses me off. I suffered a couple of years ago from bilateral Bell's palsy.
Ouch.
For those who don't know, that is when something attacks your seventh cranial nerve and half your face is paralyzed. And I had that happen to both sides of my face. And it's about 80% healed, and it heals more every day. But I am still incapable of actually smiling very wide. If you guys are friends with me on Facebook, you've noticed all my profiles, I have very small grins, kind of like a Mona Lisa smile or a little shy, sly smile. That's because that is literally as big of a smile as I can do. And I have had so many times where someone wanted to take a picture of me with my friends, and they're like, well, come on, Alexa, smile. And it kills me because it's like I am not giving a big smile because, well, I don't want to. It's because I can't. So when I hear all this, you should smile more, I just want to give the world's biggest middle finger to these jackasses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ella Camp of Culture Whisper. The first Marvel woman to show signs of heroism is given little more than a proton blast to develop her personality.
Okay, two things. One, you clearly didn't actually watch any of the previous Marvel movies if you think this is the first time a woman in that cinematic universe has been given a chance to be heroic. For God's sake, Joss Whedon goes out of his way to make Black Widow the central savior figure in at least two different major sequences in Avengers. Two, yeah, they don't actually write a real character here.
All right.
It's photon, not proton, photon.
Completely different things.
Kristen Lopez of Culturist. A great superhero origin story hobbled by the corporation using it for their own selfish purposes.
Okay.
Now that we knew here.
The mouse?
Okay, no. Now I have to say something about this stupidity.
Get him!
Because
Get him,
now-
Winfree!
Because now you just found someone who could... Oh, this could have been such a great feminist movie if not for the corporation holding it back. The artistry was shackled by corporate masters. You mean the people who financed the damn thing? Without whom this would not actually exist? You're one of those socialists complaining about capitalism on your damn iPhone. Really? You don't understand how this works. This was never going to be a great piece of art. They spent, what was the budget for this? $150 million?
Yep.
$152 million just on the budget, not the marketing? Didn't they put a Super Bowl spot for this thing up there?
Yep.
Do you know how much that costs? You think anybody who pays as much as it costs to advertise during the Super Bowl is concerned with art? Please rejoin reality.
You good?
Yeah.
Dwight Brown of National Newspaper Publishers Association. Captain Marvel rates a C. It's distinguished from other MCU movies by its female lead. Otherwise, it is way too ordinary and middle of the pack.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I'd say that's
Again,
fair.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was done.
I would say, again, it is a little bit on the bland side, but I feel there is a lot more that identifies it besides just having a female lead.
I was going to say, but there's plenty of female lead. Again, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, there are two leads, one of which is a gal.
Yeah, but, Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, all right. I don't agree with that. By the
Make
way,
a counter-argument.
You and I are going to be fighting over Ant-Man and the Wasp like fucking Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We are destined to do this forever. It's slowly replacing Age of Extinction.
Just because you and I got into that, that was the most I expected to fight with you over Age of Extinction. Did not expect to fight over Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And it was a long. I was so mad that you didn't like that movie. I thought you were being ridiculous.
I maintained that I wasn't.
J.R. Kennard.
I've been ridiculous in the past about things I like. I don't think I was unfair with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Completely unfair. J.R. Kennard of Pop Matters. Ultimately, Captain Marvel is one of Marvel's most baffling missteps.
I'm going to take issue with baffling. Because all of its missteps were pretty clearly telegraphed. Their last few movies have been very much within the Marvel formula. So, it'd be that Ant-Man and the Wasp, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, etc. I mean, there's a reason people looked at Doctor Strange and went, it's just Iron Man. Mark and I that was part of our review was, no, it's not Iron Man. Here's why. However, it does follow the same narrative beats, which is very true, just with a very different character. There's a lot of people who looked at Black Panther and went, so they rehashed Thor, which is fair in a lot of ways. It's well within the formula, which is part of the constraining issue at hand with this particular movie. It's just badly edited, which you could have told from. Sorry, you should not be able to tell that a movie is going to be badly edited from the trailer because the trailer itself is edited, and just because that's edited poorly does not mean the movie will be. In this case, it was. And again, just if you kind of paid attention, you knew they were going to make her a Mary Sue largely, and. Again, if you paid attention at all, this is not a baffling misstep. It's completely telegraphed.
William Venegas of La Nacion, Costa Rica. It's the entertainment industry turned into merchandise.
Congratulations. Welcome to capitalism.
You must be new here.
Look, guys. Look, here's the truly sad thing about this. We've now entered this bizarrely stupid history in American culture, whereby capitalist countries pretend to care about social justice to sell products to people who pretend to hate capitalism. That's what we're living in right now, and it's the height of stupidity.
Jordi Costa of El Pais, Spain. The film falls short in trying to reformulate the superhero discourse via a feminine outlook.
It's not trying to reformulate the discourse on superheroes. It's trying to get people to pay money for tickets. And guess what? It succeeded.
And in that vein, Lindsay Barr of Associated Press, top critic. The first female-led movie of the MCU deserved more.
How do you figure? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. There's things I would have done differently. There's narrative beats that could have been constructed better. There's pacing. There's certainly just editing of specific sequences that could have been improved upon. But the notion that it deserved better, she transforms into basically a giant laser beam and tells an alien nation to get bent. I'm sorry, what more do you want out of the most overpowered hero they've presented to date, who's going to show up and basically flick Thanos into the negative zone and then celebrate? Avengers at this point, Avengers Endgame is going to be 5 minutes, a battle sequence, Captain Marvel shows up at the end, and that's it.
Matthew Lacona of San Diego Reader, top critic. The film may be about breaking their shackles, but the lead actress feels kept in check for much of the picture. Humor winds up being provided by Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, heart by Lashana Lynch's Mario Rambeau, and pathos by, well, it ain't Lawson.
I mean, we talked a little bit about this. At least part of it is a deliberate choice by the writing and by the directors and the writers. Frankly, again, I wish if they were going to have her be humorless and just be, a Vulcan, basically, they should have gone all the way with it. Unfortunately, that would have meant at least 3 different scenes where our need for witty quips is not, or our quota for witty dialogue is not met, and we can't have that.
Because then we have a DC movie. We have a pre-Aquaman DC movie.
Maria Reinstein of U.S. Weekly, this broad.
Oh,
top critic. It succeeds more as an amusing fill-in-the-blanks Marvel backstory provider than a confident, standalone tale of a woman discovering her fierceness.
Again, I have to question what do you think the movie's trying to do?
Well, I wouldn't really say she discovered her fierceness. She was kind of like fierce from the start.
Yeah, she doesn't even have an arc.
You know, there's a quote from Kelly Sue DeConnick, who you guys know is the writer of the Captain Marvel in 2014 series, including the "Oh, Look at All the Kitties" cover, as I just mentioned. What was the quote here? Carol falls down all the time, but she always gets back up. We say that about Captain America as well, but Captain America gets back up because it's the right thing to do. Carol gets back up because fuck you.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. But
which is a
sounds
very
about right.
fair place a very fair take on the character, and in this instance, Captain Marvel never even really falls down, apart from in her memories.
But like you look at the beginning of the film where she's like sparring with Jude Law, and he keeps beating her, and she ends up winning the fight by using a photon blast. It's like that isn't her like keeping her down. That's just he's better at hand-to-hand combat than she is. Her advantage is she can shoot photons out of her fists. And you get to the end of the movie where it's like, all right, let's see how far you've come. Let's go at it, hand-to-hand, and she just hits him with a photon blast. Because this isn't a fight in the octagon. This is a war.
Where's your,
But I really like that scene because I like the fact that she says, I don't have to prove myself to you. I like that because there's so much of the whole, again, on a feminist argument, women are told more often that we need to prove ourselves, that we have to, be on the same footing and basically saying, no, I don't have to pull this shit.
Right.
So I really like that scene.
There was a woman in the back of the theater when I saw it who shouted out "truth" or something like that, and
right.
I mean, I would say that it's
there's some difficulty in the culture where where the gender is, you should have equality because it's the right thing to do, rather than you should earn the equality by virtue of your accomplishments. And the former is true, not the latter.
Yeah.
I'm too much of an egalitarian to buy too much into the former argument.
I mean, I think like that philosophy works in general. Like, you don't have to judge yourself by someone else's standards.
I think as a general rule, the former is right. But I think when you get down to individual, in other words, I don't think you should be. I don't think you should be made a Marine because you showed up and said, "Well, I'm a girl." I think you need to prove yourself like every other person trying to become a Marine.
Yeah,
but
I understand your point. Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying there. Yes, I agree with you on that.
But now, obviously, I am not a girl, so I will defer to Alexis in terms of
Are we allowed to think these things, girl? Do we have permission?
I'll tell you guys when you take a step too far.
Thanks.
I mean, I wasn't afraid to give my opinion on it. I am more than welcome to my opinion. All I was saying is, like, I am not a girl, so I cannot, view that scene from that perspective. But I can view it from my perspective, which I have no problem talking about.
I have no problem with it. To me, it was the denouement of the arc. I mean, you say she doesn't have an arc. I think she does. It was the denouement of the entire movie, of what the movie was saying. It was, you have to prove yourself. It's, you don't get the same salary as me because you're a girl unless you can prove that you deserve it.
No, do not bring up the fictional salary gap.
Let's not go there in the interest of finishing this.
It's
at all.
Again, I'm using that as an example. Please don't take me down a rabbit hole. And her saying, "No, I don't have to prove myself to you. I am here. I am here, and I am good. And here's a shot in the face." Speaking of shot in the face, Chris Stuckman of ChrisStuckman.com. It feels like a stepping stone movie, not the powerful one we hoped for.
I mean, it is a stepping stone. It's designed to set up Endgame.
Pretty much, and I love Stuckman. He's one of my favorite reviewers.
Oh, I don't enjoy him at all. I started. He was okay.
Not the first time he's been featured on this bit.
No. He was okay the first couple times I saw him on movie fights, and I started listening to his reviews, and I'm not a fan. Robert Winfree's spiritual grandfather Joe Morgenstern
Not old man Morgenstern.
of the Wall Street Journal, top critic.
This guy will be around until the heat death of the universe.
This woman is a candidate for genuine heroism, yet there's a fundamental dissonance between the depth of her plight and the shallow disorganization of the script.
I mean, he's not wrong necessarily, but I think he's trying to make more of this than there is.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to be fancy to say something fairly simple.
Yeah, like a lot of what he's trying to say here is, boy, I wish this had been better. And I want to. This is one of those, like, this is quasi virtue signaling in the sense that I wanted a better movie for all the women out there, and the depth of the feminine struggle is real. And I'm not here to say that there's no that is not. Look, if we want to get into the actual history of how people have been terrible to each other over the entire history of humanity, we'll be here until the end of time. Okay, he's just desperate. He just desperately kind of doesn't want to say at least part of it, or he's going way out of his way to pretend that he's smarter than he is.
Christian Toto of HollywoodInToto.com. Captain Marvel, down to the eye-rolling musical choice of No Doubt's Just a Girl, cares far more about lecturing audiences than entertaining them, and boy does it show. I don't feel lectured to, not a bit.
Me neither.
No.
I mean, again, it's like we can all agree that the use of No Doubt was a stupid move.
Yes. I don't know anyone who thinks that was a good decision.
I'm going to end with this one. Richard Brody of The New Yorker, top critic.
Oh, God.
The problem, dear Winfree, my love, is with the corporate anti-culture.
Oh,
No. Let me. I have to start over now. Richard
Where's
Brody,
he going with this?
New Yorker, top critic. The problem, dear Winfree, my love, is with the corporate anti-culture that controls these productions and the fandom, targeted demagoguery that they're made to fulfill, which responsible casting can't overcome alone, my precious.
Okay, there's now a pretty deep bite mark in my knuckle from that.
Seriously, go drink your kombucha and go listen to NPR.
Look,
What the heck is a corporate anti-culture? That's what I want to know.
It's not actually a thing. This is just a blatant look, this guy's a socialist hack. He writes for the New Yorker. Those two things go hand in hand. Who's now again foisting his politics into a film review where it is not needed or wanted. Bear in mind, look, you anti-corporatalist socialist douchebag. This movie would not exist. You want to know why people are why big budget movies like this are concerned about their return on investment? Because they invest so much money. $150 million is more than the New Yorker will make this year. This is a staggering amount of money. Yeah, if I'm going to spend that just on production, again, not on the advertising, and they put this thing on the Super Bowl, you just don't, you just don't like the fact that this wasn't what you wanted it to be. Well, boo freaking who. Rather than actually blame the writing or the editing, you must now blame the corporations, the evil capitalists. We will not be satisfied until they are dragged into the streets and shot. And workers of the world unite. Never mind the fact that you don't actually do anything of value and would starve under a socialist system. The fact that you are allowed to write that kind of crap and get paid for it is proof that you should be thanking the financial system that we operate under. You moron.
Anybody else?
I don't think I have anything that can compete with that.
Go take a smoke break and relax.
Okay.
You okay, Robert? You glad?
I don't smoke, but I appreciate the sentiment.
All right, I think that does it for our take here on Captain Marvel. We discussed the controversy, we discussed the film, we discussed the both male and female reviews of the films. What is there left to be said other than bring on Endgame? That's the only reason. That's the only thing any of us care about. God damn it! I'm waiting too long. Endgame now. Give it to me. Need to know what happens. All right.
Captain, look. Thanos loses. Captain Marvel flies around in a giant figure eight and wonders why they took so long to call her. At this point, look. I mean, it's all kind of decided that like Captain America and Iron Man are both going to die defeating Thanos. Right?
Have you
like,
heard?
we're all on board with this.
Have you heard the theory that the villain in Endgame is actually Kang the Conqueror, and Kang the Conqueror is actually Tony Stark?
No, that is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen.
I have watched so many like Reddit fan theory videos and quote unquote plot leaks.
We all know the one that you're desperately hoping for. That's that they finally introduce the Professor personality for the Hulk.
Yeah, I've heard that's coming. All right. Go ahead. Go make your snarky, stupid comment about the Hulk.
I was just going to say that's not coming in Endgame.
All right. Tomorrow,
Look, Captain Marvel's going to show up. She's going to fly around the Earth really, really fast and turn back time to before the snap and convince Thor to aim for the head.
And save Lois from an avalanche.
Leave Christopher Reeve out of this.
I love Christopher Reeve. That's still that does not change the fact that that's a profoundly stupid moment.
It's the worst.
Oh no! Nobody has ever been able to deny that. People who have talked about how the first two Superman movies are still among the greatest comic book based films of all time, who will, talk about how Christopher Reeve was the best casting of a superhero character of all time, just how perfect that was.
He's up there.
No. Yeah, he is. I am nothing. I think Christopher Reeve was amazing. No one has ever been able to, defend that moment. No one.
The dumbest. Tomorrow on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing
It's
In
the dumbest.
Flames.
Hang on. My point was it's the dumbest so far.
In Flames, I the Mask. And unless Robert learns to stop talking over me when I do the plugs, we'll do TV Party Tonight, One Punch Man. I'm about 4 episodes into it. I got to finish it up before Thursday. Maybe.
You need a lot more liquor for that.
Oh, come on. It's a lot. It's designed to be just kind of satirical fun.
The first bad guy he fights is a giant crab wearing tidy whities.
That he does.
Crab Lante.
All right. Next week, I am gone the entire week. I will be on a cruise, so I don't know what's going to happen to the network. I don't know what all kind of craziness Jesse's got planned, but I do know that Source Material will be doing Fatal Attractions, the X-Men saga. When I come back, we've got Scooby-Doo and we've got Motley Crue, all for you. Source Material is Scooby-Doo Apocalypse. Jesse Starcher will be on Damn You Hollywood to discuss the Netflix biopic for Motley Crue called The Doit. The Doit! It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be terrible.
Totally 80s, Toxic Masculinity, Mr. Pat Mullen. It will be on Metal Hammer of Doom to further celebrate the life and career of Motley Crue. We'll be looking at Motley Crue's greatest hits. And then finally, it's our March edition of On Trial, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
How did you get from Motley Crue to Scooby-Doo 2?
It's all connected.
All downhill.
It's all connected, just like The Wire. Take a drink, everybody. And then on Saturday night, it's Fight Night, y'all. Alexander, something Polish versus Dow Dow, something African. It's going to be... It's going to be boxing on ESPN. We'll do some commentating for you, live commentating, March 30th for boxing on ESPN. April 1st, we've got Plastic Man on the Lam. That'll be my return after a 2-week hiatus to Source Material. The aforementioned Dumbo review. And Children of Bodom, Hex, on the Metal Hammer of Doom.
That's a pretty bad week all the way around.
And then I'm off to New York for WrestleMania weekend. So that's all my plugs. David, do your thing. Tell them where they can find you.
Actually, I think I'd rather they don't find me.
You'd really rather they did.
Do you have anything to plug, sir?
Well, just because I missed plugging them on the Battle Angel podcast, I'd like to plug Anime World Order. That's a good podcast for people interested in like lesser known anime and manga stuff. Yeah, that's kind of mostly me for now.
Okay. Alexis, I hear you sell some shit. Where do we buy it?
Wow, okay.
Sorry, that would not have been my intro. My intro for you would have been buy her merch.
I appreciate that. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We upcycling and repurposing game pieces into unique one-of-a-kind jewelry. You can find us on Etsy, Handmade at Amazon. As always, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Protest Twitter. We're going to be the end of this month at Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City. In April, we will be doing 2 shows in one weekend. I will be at Cape Comic-Con in Cape Girardeau, sending my crew down to West Plains, Missouri for OzCon. That's our first year doing that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a bunch of new stuff coming out because as I have not been working at conventions since November, if I don't do something or create something new, I get itchy. So I've been working on a couple of new pieces in celebration of Kingdom Hearts 3 finally coming out, and that game kicking all kinds of ass. We have our brand new Keyblade Wielder's Charm Bracelet. We're looking forward to that. We're also working on a couple of new things, including a DC Heroines and a DC Villainous Hairbret.
You have to tell me if at any one of these cons somebody ever comes up to you and says, "Hey, are you the Alexis Haina that's sometimes on that asshole Radulich podcast?" And you know, if you ever get recognized for being on this, please let me know.
Oh, trust me, you'll be the first to know. Most people just call me the Scrabble Tile Girl.
No one's listening, Mark.
I have evidence to the contrary that at least...
No, you have Russian... Look, let me say... You, in which by you I mean we have Russian bots. We don't actually have people.
Oh, you're the worst. Go ahead and do your stupid plugs.
Hey, one of my friends always talks to me about the podcast. Granted, that's Andrew.
Yeah, see, I know he's listening.
We love you, Andrew, but I'm not
Hi,
entirely
Andrew.
convinced you're actually real.
For what it's worth, Mark, if you're interested, I can design some small flyers and stuff and put them on my table and advertise the show when I work cons. If you're up for it.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I'm not sure that's good for your continued business, but...
Well,
She goes on a show with these guys?
I was going to buy your wares, then I heard you on this show. Oh, my goodness.
well, I'd be happy to design something. My degree actually is in graphic design. So, Mark, let's you and me talk a little later. I can put something together.
Sounds great. All right, take it away. Hit it, Johnny.
All right, as for me, you can find me hosting the 411 Ground and Pound radio show on Sundays. This last Sunday, we reviewed Fight Night 147 or 6? 6. We reviewed Fight Night 146. The UFC debuted in Kansas. This would be why I've had to explain to people that Kansas City has both a Kansas and a Missouri side. Because they had been to Kansas City, Missouri, but they had not been to the state of Kansas. They were in Wichita on Saturday. And gave us a card that even Mark Radulich couldn't really defend. Seriously, though, it was about as good as it was going to be. It was all right. So you can listen to our review of that. We also preview UFC Fight Night 147 when the UFC is back in London. And they brought a pretty decent card, actually, to that. Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal is pretty good. Leon Edwards and Gunnar Nelson. I'm not going to run down the whole card again. You can listen to our review of that. Last Saturday, I had coverage of Fight Night 146, so if you're interested in MMA, you can find that in the MMA zone of 411mania.com. This coming Sunday, we will review Fight Night 147 and preview Fight Night 148. The UFC will be in Nashville, and their main event is the welterweight debut of former lightweight champion and theoretical featherweight title contender Anthony Pettis against Stephen Thompson. I don't expect that to be a terribly compelling fight. The rest of the card, sadly, we're going to lose either Jussier Formiga or Deiveson Figueiredo because the UFC is cutting every flyweight that loses a fight prior to them just closing down the division after Henry Cejudo moves up to fight TJ Dillashaw again at bantamweight because reasons. So you can find me, again, we'll find me there on Sunday. I think that's everything I have to plug. So, on behalf of everyone here, David, Alexis, Mark, and myself, thank you all very much for listening, for tolerating our nonsense. And I believe our new call out is we look forward to offending you in the future. Thank you, everyone.
There we go.
It's time to rethink your skin health routine and experience Hydrofacial, the completely customizable technology that professionally cleanses, extracts, and hydrates your skin, leaving you refreshed and glowing in just 30 minutes. Visit hydrofacial.com to find a provider near you.
The invitation to Lexus is no ordinary invitation. It is crafted with a dedication to building the finest vehicles on the road. At the Invitation to Lexus sales event, you're invited to experience everything that makes Lexus, Lexus.
Lease the 2019 ES350 for $379 a month for 36 months with $39.99 due at signing.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Call 1-800-USA-LEXUS for important lease offer and pricing details. Not all customers will qualify. Offer ends March 31st, 2019.